Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about things that I like, which just so happens to be TV. And today I'm doing part 2 of my interview with the vampire series. I'm just doing part 2 because I have to make my video for season 2. I do just want to say I spent most of the last video talking about how terrible Lestat is. Then Armand is gonna come into this video and steal his crown. Armand, you're a cunt. So before I get into it, I do just want to say Claudia was recast between season 1 and season 2 because Bailey Bass, the actress that played her, had to go film Avatar.
I loved playing Sadaya. She's so warm and kind and open to anyone and all people.
A lot of people didn't like the decision to recast her, but I didn't see nothing wrong with the decision because I feel like both Claudias did what they needed to do for the show. Like, Bailey was like the sweet and innocent Claudia. Delaney is like, she brings that intensity to the character that I needed. Anyway, let's get right into it, starting with episode 1. So episode 1, the first episode of season 2, is about Claudia and Louis. They are traveling all across Europe during World War II. Louis is seeing Lestat. What is it called? What is the freaking word, bro? Oh my gosh, I'm finna get aggravated. Hallucinating. He's losing. He's hallucinating visions of Lestat. Well, not visions, like he's seeing him there when he's not there. Fuck. It took me forever to get to the point. And Claudia is learning the languages as they're going across Europe. She's learning the languages from the victims before she kills them. So when the two make it to a Romanian village, they start hearing and seeing about this vampire lore, like how the people dispose of their dead so they don't come back as vampires. Claudia also sees like a decaying creature in the woods and tells Louis about it, but Louis doesn't believe her.
It's a vampire.
No, I'm a vampire. That's fucking catfish with teeth.
So in like a refugee shelter camp, they meet a woman named Amelia. Well, they don't meet her there. She saves them from soldiers who is like asking Louis while they're out and while, you know what I'm trying to say. She's like, hey, come back with us, whatever. Anyway, she is later attacked and then killed in front of everybody because it's suspected that she was attacked by a vampire. Louis and Claudia track the monster back into the woods where they see it's a woman and her son. But these vampires are like different. They're rotting. They don't look human like Louis and Claudia do.
Mama! Mama!
They track the vampire back to his home, and this is where they discover that years and years and years of feeding on the blood from the war has caused them to deteriorate. You know what I'm trying to say. Claudia offers the vampire her blood, which restores her a little bit, but instead of continuing to live, she throws herself into the fire. And obviously, this devastates Claudia because the vampires they're going all around Europe looking for, they're not what she expected. And Louis promises her, we're going to find some more. So they continue on toward Paris. By episode 2, they made it to post-war Brood. They made it to post-war Paris. This is where Louis takes up his photography hobby, and Claudia is becoming more and more lonely. She also, around this time, meets a dressmaker, Madeline.
Mademoiselle, méfiez-vous d'elle.
Who was accused of collaborating with the Germans, so she gets harassed a lot for that. And this is where we are introduced to Armand, which we met him in last season, but this is where Louis is introduced to him. Armand is watching them for months and months and months because there's like, we'll get into it, but there's these great rules that vampires have to follow, the laws. Because under the great laws, every vampire has to belong to a coven. Well, more like every territory has a vampire coven that the leader is responsible for. Armand at the time is the leader of a coven. So when he sees these unaffiliated vampires come into Paris, they're automatically his business. So at first he starts watching them in kind of like a who are they, why are they here, who made them type of vibe. But eventually that turns into a little crush on Louis. And honestly, I can't blame him because Louis is a looker. Louis is fine. We went over it in the last video, but Louis, yes.
He looked like a boy masquerading as a gentleman, but I sensed his ancient power.
So when Armand finally does approach Louis, he invites them back to the theater. Louis and Claudia go to the theater where the vampires are performing for a theater of humans. So the humans think everything they do is for the play, like it's like made up, like they're just acting. They're acting with real aspects. For example, they kill a woman in front of the whole live audience, but like I said, the audience thinks that's part of the play. They think the human that's getting killed is just an actress. There's a part where Santiago, which I would say he's like second in command when it comes to the theater of vampires, the Vampire Coven. The Coven does plays in the theater, okay? So we're not confused. He starts flying and Claudia notices like, oh, he's actually flying. Like even though he has the little piece that they use in a theater to make it look like you're flying, even though he has that connected to him, like, oh, he's actually flying. So this piques Claudia's interest in the theater. So they're invited backstage, and this is where Santiago starts asking them questions about their maker. However, last minute, they have to make up a lie because they see whenever you're done, last minute, they see a portrait of Lestat hanging in the theater.
Who's that handsome man on the wall up there?
Ah, with us in spirit, always. Our co-founder and the finest actor ever to walk our stage.
And they're like, oh, we can't come in here and say that we killed him. So they make something up last minute. Claudia explains later that she uses Piece of the Truth to come up with the lie. The lie is that they met their creator, whose name is Bruce, outside of Chicago. After he turned them, he threw himself in the fire. Now, the Coven welcomes them in despite their suspicious story. Louis, however, is like, maybe we shouldn't because they could read our thoughts. Claudia's like, no, they didn't suspect anything when we told them the Bruce lie. Like, they believed us. And then later, Louis, like I said, he's having these hallucinations of Lestat. Like, obviously Lestat's on his mind. He goes to see a lawyer to, like, the lawyer is who was transferring Lestat his money when they were in Louisiana. So Louis goes to check in, like, have you transferred any more funds? The lawyer's like, no. I think what you're, like, the lawyer is on the same page as him. He's like, yeah, it's been a while. I think he's dead, bud. So the lawyer's like, in the event that I don't hear from him, I have this letter to give you. And in the letter, it is Lestat basically saying that he loved Louis.
Not my own death. Rather, the fact that we both now exist in two different worlds.
All while Claudia has made it her mission to join the coven. Well, later, Armand meets up with Louis to tell him, don't visit that lawyer anymore, because Louis is still being watched. I don't understand Louis' thought process at some points. But Louis do be blind to the truth sometimes, so we're just gonna ignore that for now. So in episode 3, mind you, Daniel is still interviewing Louis, but this is not that he's irrelevant, but this is the first time I'm bringing him up because somebody from the Talamasca is basically like an intelligence agency for supernatural creatures. So they watch for years and they gain information on vampires, which is all of that in Anne Rice's universe. And the Talamasca is giving Daniel some information that creates some plot holes in Louis' story. Anyway, in episode 3, we also get Armand's backstory. So Armand was born in the 1400s as Arun.
The donor in the title was my maker. The canvas painted in my maker's studio.
His family sold him, and eventually he ends up in a brothel. So due to everything that was going on, you can imagine what happens in a brothel to a 14-year-old boy.
And if a friend wandered into town, I was occasionally donated.
But due to all of that mistreatment, he doesn't even remember a lot. Like, he doesn't remember his real name. He thinks it's Arun, essentially. Anyway, he is saved by an ancient vampire who renames him and treats him with affection. He learns a lot, from art to language to culture, philosophy. And he becomes devoted to this vampire. So around that time, Armand becomes really sick. And at this point, he's like 17, 18, 20, something like that. And instead of just letting him die, the vampire turns him into a vampire. But soon after that, a vampire cult attacks their home because they believe that vampires are products of Satan, and they take Armand and rename him Armand, as we know him now. Armand later becomes the leader of this cult, but they still avoid sunlight, live underground, followed strict laws, and believed all vampires should suffer and hide, because they still have this belief that vampires are made from Satan. I think, if anything, this just shows how dated these laws and beliefs of the vampires are, which I see what you did there. I see what you did there, Anne Rice. Like, I see you, sis. It's very much like how a lot of laws and beliefs are outdated in humans as well. Anywho, this is when Lestat arrives to Paris, and Lestat challenges all the beliefs because he takes human lovers. He don't think vampires should hide. He doesn't believe vampires are created from Satan, and he comes up with the idea for the theater. So that is how the theater is built. That's why his picture is in the theater, because he changed the vampire coven as they knew it then.
Rompez cette prison qu'il bâtit pour vous.
Armand, and here's my thing with Armand. This is why I said he's a cunt. Because he takes credit for so much of Lestat's shit.
His words had been my thoughts for half a century. If it had come from me, they wouldn't have believed it.
It's so irritating. Because he later on then tells Daniel that the reason why he let Lestat come in and change everything is because he had been thinking that for years, but the coven wouldn't have believed him if he said it. So he let Lestat come in and say it and let them. You were not even thinking that, bro. I don't believe you were thinking that, bro. Because if that's the case, you could have just said it. Don't let Lestat come in here and say, oh, you had the idea first and you let the idea come out of his mouth and have a whole way around it. No. Stop trying to take credit for his work. Okay? So in the present times, which is like the 1940s, Claudia joins the coven and she is working backstage. Louis refuses to join the coven while also being Armand's lover, which is low-key making the coven hate him because they feel like you can't be in and out. You can't be in and out. You can't be on the fence. You got to be either on this side or that side. That's how they feel. So low-key, their resentment for Louis is already building up. And this is also putting a target on Armand's back because what back? Essentially, he has no backbone.
Take off your clothes.
I am going through Sam's new pages.
Clothes off, face down in the coffin. You can read them to me while I fuck you.
So, as Louis and Armand are getting closer, Louis finally opens up and says that his maker isn't Bruce. It was Lestat. And they killed Lestat. And Armand says, oh, I know. Because I read your thoughts the first night. And Louis is dumbfounded. He's like, what? You just let me lie to you? Like, yeah. We wanted to see how far you were going to take it. Anyway, Armand warns him to keep his thoughts tightened up. Because if he could read them, the other coven is going to get in there eventually. So Armand considers killing Louis because technically he broke several of the 5 great laws, which we're about to get into that. But y'all know Louis, he got that riz, like Armand couldn't kill him. Instead, he took him as a lover. Anyway, let's get into the 5 great laws, right? Number 1, every coven must have a leader. Number 2, the dark gift, which is vampirism, must never be given to children or crippled. Claudia was a child when she got turned, let me remind you. Number 3, no vampire can write down the history of vampires, which Louis is actively doing when he's getting interviewed by Daniel because Daniel is recording everything. Number 2, Claudia is literally introduced to us through her journals. It's been written. 4, no vampire is allowed to reveal their nature to a vampire and not turn that person into a vampire or kill them to keep their secret, essentially. And lastly, number 5, no vampire may destroy another vampire. Which we'll learn they technically didn't do that, but they tried to. So several laws have been broken here. In episode 4, Claudia is given a role in the play instead of just working backstage. She's giving a role in the theater as a baby Lou.
There's nothing more adorable than a happy baby bird.
Which the audience love her and they love her little window storyline. But Claudia is low-key hating it because it's reminding her that She's a kid. One thing Claudia hates is being an immortal child. She's 14 forever. She hates this. We talked about it in the last video. During this time, Louis and Armand are trying to put a label on things, but they can't agree. Are they together? Are they not together? And Santiago, he can see the, I don't know what the word is. He can see the seam starting to tear. And this is when he starts questioning Armand's authority. All the while, Claudia, like I said, she's not as enthusiastic about this role she was given as a child, and Armand forces her to stay in her dress 24/7 until she gets a better attitude, essentially. Now, I don't know, Armand is giving like a misogynist, like, Claudia can do no freaking right in your eyes, but you understand where Louis is coming from at every point. Like, sir, I'm sorry, he just gets on my nerves.
Hit me, bitch! Hit me, bitch! You won't say shit, bitch! Let's go, bitch! You're a cunt! You're a cunt! Like,
and that's the thing, like, I feel like so many people, if a villain has a sad backstory, all of a sudden everything they do is justified. Not here, boo. Not here, boo. You could never be Klaus Michelson.
Something else. A different kind of monster. I've got some vampire. I've got some wolf. What?
Anyway, Louis says he loves Armand. Their relationship is growing. But all the while, Louis is still hallucinating Lestat. Like, Lestat is in the room every single time Armand is around. Lestat is in the room, like, laughing at Louis for even having these feelings and mocking him, essentially.
I keep your secret.
What? What's the secret? Oh, I'm the secret.
Santiago catches Claudia writing in her diary one day, reads it a little bit, and warns her that this could get her killed. Warns her. I feel like he was already working on the plan, but we'll get into the plan. Claudia also goes back to the dress shop to talk to Madeline. Her and Madeline start growing closer. Madeline tells Claudia her backstory.
I wasn't inviting Hitler to stay in France. I was inviting a frightened boy to cradle my tits.
And Armand reveals his full past to Louis, which, like I said, like, that was really rough what you went through, Armand. And like saying, oh, that was really rough, that's like kind of tone deaf, because it wasn't really worse. It wasn't really rough. It was terrible. But Armand, you don't get no fucking pass from me. Okay? Now you got me over here wanting Lestat back. After everything we went through in season 1, you got me missing Lestat? Armand discovers Claudia and Madeline's relationship. He forbids them from being friends anymore. Which, okay, like Claudia can just not do no right. She tried to go away. She tried to go to college in season 1. She had to deal with Lestat shit. Now she's trying to make her own friends, and she has Armand telling her she can't. Like, who do these men think they are? Okay? Claudia's just trying to live her freaking life and not be a slave to these fucking men. And Louis acts like he cares for her so much. Well, you know, like we talked about a little in season 1, he does care for her. Like, she was his replacement Grace. Like, she replaced his family, essentially. But Louis don't give a fuck about his family.
I forgot. Love makes you stupid. Makes you fickle and weak and blind.
Louis gives a fuck about getting cracked. That's all he cares about. He gets a new partner and it's fuck his family. Like, I'm irritated. Claudia can't have nothing. Boom. And then, as if it couldn't get worse, Santiago breaks into their apartment, steals Claudia's freaking journal. And in the present day, you have Daniel catching these inconsistencies in the story. By episode 5, Daniel is pushing Armand and Louis to recall back to their first interview, which happened in 1973 when Daniel was a drug addict. He was just trying to score. There's a scene where Louis invites him back to his apartment, shows him the coffin, and asks Daniel, is he scared? And Daniel's like, not really. So what do? You take him in the coffin and bang them? Like, he's getting excited. It's like, I feel where he's coming from in that moment. Daniel actually says that his interviewing skills weren't so great back then. So young Daniel is asking him about immortality, becoming a vampire. Louis ends up attacking him and almost killing him. Armand has to step in and save Daniel.
You don't know what human life is like. I mean, you've forgotten, man. I mean, you don't understand the meaning of your own story.
Well, then Louis, feeling guilty, he walks into the sun, or tries to walk into the sun, but Armand saves him yet again.
I walked into the sun.
And while Louis is recovering, Armand is torturing Daniel because Armand, his attachment issues are worse than Lestat. He's trying to figure out why Louis found him so interesting to want to tell him about the dark gift or whatever. So he's torturing him. And Louis watching from the other room because he's burnt. You know, like I also talked about in the last video, vampires can heal, but they don't heal immediately. It takes them months, sometimes years to heal depending on the damage. So Louis is just sitting there being forced to watch Armand torture Daniel. Oh, and Louis and Daniel, like, neither one of them can remember this for sure. They remember bits and pieces of this.
128 boys he's brought here. He said 5. And you're the first he didn't consummate and drain.
It's so bad.
That makes you special.
Please, man.
During this time, I would say Armand is low-key torturing Louis too, because telepathically Armand reaches out to Lestat.
Armand called me. Were you there?
And Lestat calls back like it's a phone. Lestat answers the call, proving that Lestat is still alive, leading to Louis admitting, like, yes, I still think about Lestat. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
Nothing at all.
Nothing's wrong with it.
So?
No, I'm saying
what now?
I mean, it's not.
Armand also alters Daniel's memories before letting him go, which is why the only thing Daniel remembers is essentially blacking out. So in present day, Louis and Daniel are having a discussion about what they remember from that day or that week, that weekend, because it wasn't just a day. And they're like, oh wow, we both have gaps in our memory, and they're trying to put together what really happened. By episode 6, Daniel meets back up with dude from the Talamasca and learns more, not only about the Talamasca, but what really happened at the theater and, like, essentially with Armand. Also, going back to, like, I know it's like a lot, like going back to the 1940s timeline where Claudia's still in the theater. She saves Madeline one night when her dress shop is attacked by a group of men and one girl. And this one girl, like, telling her to be quiet and stuff. Like, girl, I hate women like that. Like, you're so male-centered. You're really gonna sit there and watch another girl be attacked and you just tell her be quiet while you're throwing her dresses on the floor and stuff? Who are you?
Ouais, crie tout ce que tu veux, hein. Tes voisins s'en fichent.
Anyway, Claudia saves Madeline from the attack. So Madeline sees her doing her vampire things, killing them, sucking their blood. And instead of being terrified, Madeline is pretty accepting of it, which makes Claudia want to make her a companion. You got to think about it. At this point, Claudia's done seeing Louis have two companions that understand him so much. They have this incredible bond. She wants her own. Nobody's ever choosing Claudia. Even Claudia being turned was such a selfish freaking reason. Like, Louis, you turned Claudia because you felt bad about your own actions, and then you're allowing her to be mistreated by every freaking partner you have. Armand, Lestat, are you cool? She wants her own companion, and I don't blame her. It's just like, why couldn't it have been me? That's my only thing. Mind you, I was born in 02. Like, girl, we're not even to that part in the timeline yet. But yeah, I'm making a call to the vampires, like, you know, we can have an arrangement. That Claudia asks Louis to make Madeline into her companion, but Louis doesn't quite know how. So he goes to ask Armand, and Armand and Madeline have this conversation just for him to say no. Because Armand doesn't know how to turn people either. Louis eventually gives in and is the one to turn Madeline. Madeline survives the transformation. And for once, Claudia doesn't feel abandoned. She feels chosen. Because, oh, one thing I forgot to mention, how Louis even got Armand to have the conversation with Madeline about being turned is essentially telling him that he feels bad for Claudia. Go figure. No, who wouldn't? And clearly you don't. Like, look at how you're treating her, motherfucker. Meanwhile, Santiago is doing his own investigation. He talks to the lawyer. He finds out Lestat lived his whole life after his supposed death. This is when he learns that Louis and Claudia lied about their maker because he stole Claudia's diaries. She wrote down the history and he's just reveling in it. So Louis, Claudia, and Madeline are taken by the coven and they are put on a public trial. So episode 7 is the episode where the trial starts, and the public trial is, like I said, it's a theater performance that is the trial, but to the humans watching in the audience is just a normal play. And Claudia's diaries are the main piece of evidence because she wrote down her whole experience being turned. She wrote down her whole experience killing Lestat. And guess who shows up as a witness? Lestat.
To the beginning, if you will, of this story of butchery.
It's a story of love, not butchery.
Anyway, the first time you watch it, you may think like, oh, that's a hallucination. That's another one of Louis' hallucinations. No, Lestat is there. So Lestat is there. He's performing his lines that were written into the play, but he's going off script a lot. Like, low-key, he's confirming the story, but at the same time, like, he's giving details. Like, they're blaming Louis for creating Claudia. Lestat steps in and he's like, no, if you blame him, you have to blame me too. I was just as much a part of it. So the verdict is given. Like, oh my gosh, can Claudia get a freaking break? Like, that's what I feel bad for in all of this. And Madeline. Anyway, they offer Madeline her freedom if she turns against Claudia. And Madeline did the one thing Louis couldn't do.
And my immortal companion is Claudia. My coven is Claudia.
Louis is supposed to suffer the same fate, but Lestat uses his powers to save him by using his vampire powers to make the audience say guilty, but banish him. Don't kill him in the sunlight. Which is like, Claudia and Madeline couldn't get that same respect, but whatever. And then notice I said Lestat did that. You got Armand claiming he did that.
Banishment. Banishment.
But he's claiming he was sitting in the box being guarded by a single vampire, and he was being forced to watch it. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Anyway, the verdict is given. The audience says Claudia and Madeline are guilty. So they are killed by the sunlight. It's like 1 p.m. While this is going on, they open the skylight or whatever it's called. The sun comes in, turns them both to dust.
Follow the bouncing ball.
It takes Claudia a little longer because she's older than Madeline, but nevertheless, they go out in each other's arms. Now, Louis, they put him in a box of rocks for him to become damned.
Shoved me in a coffin. Filled the coffin with rocks.
In Anne Rice's universe, damned is like, not when a vampire dies, but when they don't feed for so long, they become like statues. It happens when they're like starving for years, they're unable to move, and they throw Louis in this box. Another reason why they got the vampires to sit up there complacent, not only was were the vampires fucking with their mind, they slit their Achilles heels, which, like I said, vampires heal fast, but not that fast. So they wouldn't be able to like run out and save themselves before the play is over because they couldn't walk because their Achilles were slit. And I do just want to say, when they threw Louis in the box of rocks, his feet weren't healed yet. So he tells Daniel, this is like totally like just a random point. He tells Daniel that the rocks are still in his body. Like if they did an x-ray, they would look like little cancers. That's what he says. And Louis, he's already in his box just hearing Claudia and Madeline scream as they meet their end. Now, that was like kind of a good fake ending, but that wasn't the real ending, because whereas season 1 had 7 episodes, season 2 has 8 episodes. So in the 8th episode, we learn that Armand goes and saves Louis by giving Louis some of his blood. Like I said, he's in that damned state. And consumed by his grief and his rage, Louis starts developing his plan for revenge for what the theater did to Claudia. And I'm just going to tell you what happened. He burns that to the ground. He burns it to the ground. Okay? Now, I'm not going to lie. He is going crazy. Like, a guard catches him stifling. Is it stifling or stifling? I don't know. I don't even know what words mean. Shit. Like... Anyway, when he's stealing the gas from a motorcycle, a guard catches him. Louis takes him back to his little hiding spot in Paris. And he's dead because Louis, like, drains him. But he's hallucinating the freaking guard telling him, like, oh, you should hide under the stairs. And you should attack them with a machete. Like, that's what he thinks the guard is telling him, but really it's Louis' own thoughts because it's a hallucination, if you know what I mean. Anyway, Louis enacts his plan. Some of the vampires escape on motorcycles, but guess what? Louis blows up them too. Then Louis and Armand remain together afterwards. That's how they end up in Dubai. And then years later, that's when they send for Daniel to come finish the interview. Well, before that, of course, 1973 happens, and they have their run-in with Daniel. Some more time happens. They call him back to finish the interview. Now, in present day, Daniel has information from the Talamasca, and Daniel also has the benefit of seeing the story from an outsider perspective, he starts putting together the fact that Armand played a bigger role in the play than Louis perhaps thinks. Basically, when Armand got caught sneaking around with Louis, he gave up Louis, Claudia, and Madeline to save himself. Well, when the proceedings was going on, Daniel helps Louis recall it's not Armand that saved his life, using his mind control to tell the crowd to save Louis. That was Lestat using his powers. Which, oh my gosh, Armand, literally fuck you. Fuck you, because like I said, he loves taking credit for shit Lestat did. I'm not saying Lestat is perfect. We went over that in the last video. But it's like, oh, you really sat up there and said you used all your power to save Louis? You didn't use none of your power, because you didn't do it, you fucking liar. Anyway, after a long, like 75, 77 years together, Louis breaks up with Armand. And I mean literally breaks up with him, like, boom, slams his ass into the wall. And then Louis ends up back in New Orleans. Oh my gosh, it's like, it was a heart-touching moment because you see somebody telling the story. They're getting stuff wrong, of course, about what happened with Louis and Lestat and what happened with them during Mardi Gras when they chose the elites to come back with them and then they end up killing them. Anyway, Louis sees that and he spots a vampire taking rats back to a house. He follows him, whoop the whoop the whoop. He's reunited with Lestat.
Who's he?
Louis.
Yes, Louis? He's Louis?
Get out.
And Lestat, he even recognizes his wrongdoings, right? And says, I'm sorry, I failed Claudia, I failed you. Daniel goes on to publish Interview with the Vampire, which he goes on an interview and they're like, this is fiction. Daniel's like, no, this isn't fiction. But, you know, to the humans, it's fiction, but the vampires are reading this book and seeing this book and is putting a target on Louis' back. Daniel warns Louis and Louis' like, don't worry about me. Louis goes back to Dubai where he makes a call to all the vampires and is like, come get me, because I own the night.
I own the night.
That's like the end of the story. That's the end of the season. Louis making his call saying, come get me. But one part that I forgot is when Armand frees Louis by giving him his blood, they follow up with Lestat.
I have the blood of Akash in me.
He doesn't know who that is.
AKA Queen of the Damned, AKA the first vampire. So this is where she comes in, because she's going to be in the vampire Lestat because he has her blood in him, which makes him even harder to kill, because in Anne Rice's universe, the closer you are to the ancient source, the harder you are to kill, the stronger you are as a vampire, which means even though Armand is older than Lestat, which in most traditional vampire lore that would equal stronger, he's not, because Lestat has the most ancient blood within him. So yes, I hope I covered everything that I needed to cover. Because this is the end of the video. Yeah, so make sure you like it if you liked it. Subscribe to me. Of course, I'm probably gonna have to do Queen of the Damned next, right? I'm gonna have to talk about that movie next. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. And remember, if you subscribe now, you can say you've been here from the beginning. So who doesn't want to be there from the beginning when it comes to a creator? Your favorite creator at that, okay? Even if I'm not right now, I could be in the future. Make sure you follow me on TikTok as well, Mealing Media, and Substack, Dealing with Mealing. Yeah. Chat with me in the comments. I don't fucking know. Bye.